it's Starzy and today we are going to be doing a book haul. So this is going to be pretty much all the books that I've acquired in the first half of 2021. Because I don't acquire books necessarily that often. Majority of my reading is through the library and other such means, but I do feel like I've acquired more books in the past 6 months than I did the entirety of last year. So where I have previously just done like a yearly book haul, I would thought I would do this kind of mid-year book haul. And I also have 3 books from Christmas, since that was just after my last book haul. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm just gonna go through all the books I've acquired in the past 6 months. Starting with the few gifts I have. So again, these first few were from Christmas. So from my boyfriend's family, I received How the King of Elflame Learned to Hate Stories by Holly Black, which is a collection of like short stories to do with the Cruel Prince, which I'm not necessarily like the biggest fan of that series, but by the end I was intrigued enough, and I had been eyeing this in a bookstore because it's like full of illustrations, and so my boyfriend obviously saw that and must have passed it on, so not something I've read yet. Book hauls are always a bit of a, have I actually read the books I've acquired? And this I've started, but have not finished. And then the other 2 things I got for Christmas from my mum. So I got Magic Lessons by Alice Hoffman, which is a typical mum move of getting a book that is technically part of a series and having no idea that it was part of a series, because I think this is actually the prequel to Practical Magic. So because it's a prequel, it shouldn't be an issue, but I've never read any Practical Magic, although I did see the movie, and while I'm not a huge fan of the movie, I generally really like witchy stuff, so hopefully I'll have better luck with this. But yeah, I'm pretty sure she just picked it out because she really liked the cover, which fair. And then the other book she got me for Christmas was just a cooking book, so 5 ingredient vegan. I'm not vegan, but I don't cook meat anymore, so if I do eat non-vegetarian stuff, it's because someone else has cooked it. And the last 2 gifts I have were from my birthday in May. One of my friends got me 2 books, which was really unexpected, and they actually both happen to be books that I have actually read previously and really liked, which he didn't know, but because of that, I'm really happy to have my own physical copies of them, and that's Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman and The Witcher, The Last Witch by the author. I do not know how to pronounce his name, I still don't. So obviously this is part of the Witcher series, adult fantasy series, which has had many spin-offs, including the Netflix show now and video games, and there's a lot in here that is very clearly taking inspiration from fairy tales, which I love, and Geralt is a character I like, so yeah. And then this is obviously just Neil Gaiman retelling some Norse myths, and I enjoy mythology and I enjoy Neil Gaiman's writing, so good stuff. So they're the gifts I have, but then I did also receive a bookshop voucher from Mum for Christmas, so I did go and buy 2 books with her as well. And so the things I picked out were, first of all, A Pinch of Magic, which is the first book in a middle grade fantasy series following 3 girls who are cursed. And I've actually read the 2nd and the 3rd book first, because that's the kind of person I am, and did really enjoy them, so I'm glad to have the first one, which I have started. Again, haven't finished it, but it's real pretty. And then the other one I picked because I was looking between a romance book and a horror, and I was like to my mum, should I pick the romance or the horror? And her reasoning was, well, I never see you reading romance, so get the romance. So I did get Get Alive Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert, which is probably my favourite book that I've read this year. I loved this, loved it. Favourite romance now, following Chloe Brown and her romance with Red, who's the superintendent of her building, but she makes a list to like get a life and enlists his help, checking off things on a list. And it's got great banter and it's beautiful. Yeah. Funnily enough though, because that was the reasoning she gave for picking this, I feel like romance is possibly the genre I've now read the most of this year. Because I enjoyed Chloe Brown so much, I did then go purchase Act Your Age Eve Brown, and Take a Hint Dani Brown. So these are all part of the same series, but they're like companion novels because each book is a romance of a different Brown sister. So there's 3 of them. I've now read all of them, really enjoyed them. Chloe Brown is still my favourite, probably followed by Dani Brown, because Dani Brown is a bisexual witch. Really enjoy this romance series. Part of that same order with those 2 romance books, because I saw it and I wanted it, is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. This is a picture book, so the illustrations are beautiful. It's not the best picture book out there, and it's very much not canon in terms of Buffy, but it's really cute, and so I don't regret having it. And I have 2 things that I picked up from a bookstore when I was shopping with my family, because it was one of those discount bookstores, so everything was like $10 and stuff. And so I got Part of Your World, A Twisted Tale by Liz Braswell. This is one of the Twisted Tales books, which are Disney stories with some kind of twist. So this one says, what if Ariel had never defeated Ursula? Another book I haven't read yet, but I've always been really intrigued by these Twisted Tale books, being a lover of fairy tales and animated Disney movies. So yeah, I'm intrigued. And the other thing I got from that store is Star Wars graphics, which, because I'm that type of nerd, it's just got all these little infographics to do with Star Wars, and it just makes my heart happy, okay? So of course I did end up going and purchasing one of the most hyped books of the year, A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J Maas, because the friggin' ebooks were so expensive, and like, why can I get the physical copy cheaper than an ebook? Why is that how Australian books work, and not that Australian books or even physical books are cheap? It's a messed up system. If you don't know what this is, you must not be active in the book community, because it's part of the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, which is a fantasy series, which is kind of heavy on the romance. This one in particular got pretty smutty, and it's following Nesta and Cassian, and I really loved the friendships in this book. I did also go and get a physical copy of, I didn't go and get it because I ordered this online, but I decided to get a physical copy of like my favourite book that I read last year, so that I could reread it and annotate it and just generally have it on my shelves, and that is Bunny by Mona Awad, which was a weird horror novel, dark academia, kind of witchy magic going on, very, very weird, and I liked it a lot, so now I have my own copy, and it's real pretty, so I'm very happy to have this. And then the last 2 books here I just ordered this week, because I hadn't gotten any new books in quite a while, because I think the last time I bought a book was probably A Court of Silver Flames, and I found that horror can be really hard to obtain in Australia. Most bookstores tend to pretty much just have Stephen King when it comes to horror a lot of the time. So yeah, it's not the most accessible here, and so I decided to buy a couple of horror books. That's the long spiel into that. So one of them was a book that was on my anticipated books of the year list, so I have a video on that if you're interested. That is Near the Bone by Christina Henry. I read a Christina Henry book last year called, I don't remember what it was called, but it was like a Little Red Riding Hood, dystopian horror retelling. Not dystopian, apocalyptic, an apocalyptic horror. But I enjoyed that a lot, and so I was interested in reading this because this is Christina Henry's newest book. Both of these books are new releases, and I don't know much about it other than I was interested because I liked the author's previous work of the author, and I know it's horror, and I think it involves an abusive man or something, which is not necessarily my favourite thing, but maybe something bad will happen to him. But yeah, I was interested initially because of the author, and also on top of that, some of the booktubers that I follow and watch have read it and really enjoyed it, so that kind of upped the hype for me even more. So I got this week, and I'm looking forward to trying it out. And then the other new release is actually a YA horror, and that is House of Hollow, which I've seen a few people mention, and the cover, I kind of like the cover. And I haven't really been reading horror this year. Again, I think mostly because of the inaccessibility of it. Like because a lot of my reading has been through the library, especially like my digital library, and that doesn't have much horror on it, especially not new horror. So because of the inaccessibility of horror, I haven't been reading much this year, and I think that's part of the reason I haven't been having as good a reading year this year as last year, because last year I read a lot of horror, and I love horror, so... And I read some YA horror that I enjoyed last year, so all of this long spiel to say, I want to read more horror, I want to try out more YA horror because I read a few things last year that I enjoyed. This is a YA horror. I don't know much about it beyond that, other than I did briefly see a few people say they read it and enjoyed it. I can't remember what it's about, but this is one of those books that doesn't have the description on the back either. It has all the people's praise for it. Dark and delicious. So that doesn't help me. Iris Hollow and her two older sisters are unquestionably strange. I don't know. At the same time, I do kind of like going into books not knowing too much, as long as I know enough to know that it's something I might be interested in, which, yes. I feel like I also saw someone on TikTok say that there was a bi character in this. I could be wrong, but hopefully I'm not. I think that's it. Hopefully I'm not forgetting any books, which is quite possible that I just have one squirreled away somewhere that I forgot that I got this year. Can I pick them up? So these are all the books I've acquired in the past 6 months. So yeah, that's gonna be all for today. Let me know if there are any of these books that you think I should get to sooner rather than later, that if you've read anything and think I should be particularly excited about it, or whether there's anything in particular that, based on the things I've acquired, that other books that you think that I would be interested in reading. Yeah, let's chat books in the comments, and I'll see you next time. TTFN and Starzy out. New books smell good too.